Hi, my name's Ingrid Shearer. I'm the Heritage Engagement Officer for the West Boathouse project. I work for Glasgow Building Preservation Trust. The West Boathouse project is the renovation and restoration of a Category B listed timber framed Edwardian boathouse down on Glasgow Green. It was built in 1905 for the two rowing clubs that are still based in the building, so that's Clydesdale Amateur Rowing Club and Clyde Amateur Rowing Club. And here's an image of it before we went on site. So we began renovations in February this year, and we have a year-long programme of capital works that's mainly stabilising the building's foundations and repairing rotten timbers, restoring windows and balconies, upgrading the facilities and making the building accessible to users with disabilities. You can see from this image it's a bit shabby chic at the moment. So my role is to engage with communities in the area around about the boathouse, so Calton, Gorbals area, and then a 6 kilometre stretch right along the river through the east end of the city. So that yellow line you can see represents the 6 kilometre rowing reach, so the range that the rowers use along the river, and we've taken that as the kind of geographic remit for the project. So I'm just going to give you a really kind of super quick overview of the project and discuss some of the specific elements of the kind of heritage engagement programme that I think would fit archaeology students in particular. The project takes a really holistic approach and covers cultural and natural heritage, tangible and intangible heritage, but a big component is looking at sporting heritage. Now, this is probably not an area of research that you've encountered that much, certainly not in archaeological context, although I think that's changing now. So even if you're not particularly sporty or interested in sport, the stories around about sport, play and recreation can be really powerful tools to begin conversations around other topics, migration, gender, attitudes to the body, inclusion and exclusion, and it's a really fantastic way to engage new audiences. Sporting heritage reflects and influences those kind of wider changes in society. So in terms of volunteering opportunities, there were two main elements that I thought might be of interest. So one is looking specifically at club collections. So that's the material that the two rowing clubs have gathered over the years. Both of them predate the building itself. So Clydesdale Amateur Rowing Club were formed in 1857 and Clyde go back to 1865. So they've amassed a lot of material that's everything from vintage boats, oars, trophies, pennants. So there's a lot of textile material there too, to archival material. They have minute books going back to the 1880s. They have a lot of archival photographs. They have posters, all kinds of stuff, a huge range of material there. And none of it has been catalogued or recorded in any kind of way. So we're working through collections at the moment, and you get a real range of material to work with, but also training in basic care and conservation. We'll be cataloguing and recording the entire collection, and I'm also keen to get input on interpretation and redisplay for when the building reopens in the spring next year. And here's some of the kind of material we have. Because the building sits beside the river, it's been quite damp over the years, and that's had an impact on some of the material that we have. So yeah, water damage has been an issue with some of the collections. The other opportunity is a pilot project called Mapping Glasgow's Sporting Heritage. And I think that's a really particularly interesting one to approach from a landscape perspective. Most sporting heritage projects have focused on documentary evidence, and there's been a tendency to focus very much on the winners, on the big names in sport, and actually looking at sport from an archaeological perspective, from a landscape perspective, is really interesting. It's essentially to have spaces for sport and play and recreation, you need real estate, and those kind of the creation of those spaces changes over the years. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that's evolved over time. There's also a lot of built heritage associated with sport. So for instance, our Boathouse, you have pavilions, you have a lot of investment in the Victorian period and Edwardian periods in terms of sporting buildings. So we're going to be undertaking a mapping project. So working up a baseline data set using probably QGIS and a lot of historic map progression and bits of documentary research to support that. That baseline data set can then be passed on to some of our statutory bodies. So it'll work its way into SMRs and HERs, but also create a foundation for an online map-based resource that has a more kind of public-facing role and will link in particularly nicely with a lot of the reminiscence projects that have developed around sporting heritage over the last sort of 10 years. So you can go and look at a particular building or grounds that you may have played at, or your granny went to football matches at Queen's Park or whatever. You can start uploading your own memories and photographs. So that's a really exciting project, and that so students would be given training in using GIS and historic map progression as part of that process as well. So working on the West Boathouse project, and particularly around about sporting heritage, I think gives students an opportunity to come into a field that's really emerging and developing and kind of make their mark. You'll be given a lot of training in digital technology, so not just the GIS elements, but if you're working on the collections, we'll be doing a lot of photogrammetry and photography workshops as well. And we do take a very kind of holistic approach to heritage. We're also working with a lot of partners, so there's a good opportunity to meet new people and do a bit of networking. We work with Glasgow Museums, Caledonian University, we work with Glasgow Disability Alliance and a whole range of other partners. So it's a good opportunity to meet a range of different partners and see the kind of breadth of opportunities out there for working in the kind of wider heritage sector. So if you're interested and you'd like to chat a little bit further, please give me a shout. I can be contacted by email at ingrid@gbpt.org, and I look forward to hearing from you.